All right, folks, we're going to get started. This it's supposed to be a round table, but the table ain't round. So we got to figure it out. We got to make it happen as we go here. I was waiting on a couple of people, but I'm just going to go forward because I like to penalize the people who are on time for everybody else who decide to show up. I don't know if everybody knows what guaranteed income is. First of all, I don't want to assume. I know that this is a workshop, a roundtable about guaranteed income, and obviously what we can do with it in the state of New Jersey. And I don't want to assume everybody knows what guaranteed income is. So I guess that's a good place for us to begin. There is something called universal basic income that people are talking about now because of AI and because of the jobs that will be displaced because of growing technology. This is where they talked about it. But there were people way before this happened that talked about universal basic income. People like Martin Luther King talked about universal basic income. Some of the folks that are not even on the progressive or left side of leaning government talked about universal basic income based on the things that we're talking about now, meaning that there should be a set amount of money that's given to everyone in the country as a starting point, right? Whether it's for children, some countries do it when people have when women have babies, they give it while they're being born or while they're being conceived, up to 3 years old or 4 years old or 5 years old, you get a certain amount of money, right? They do this in European countries, in other places this happens, right? So that's what universal basic income really is. Places like Qatar, they give their residents a large amount of money, by the way, a certain amount of money simply because they are not residents, but because they're native of Qatar. They give them a certain amount of money. And what happens is they wind up bring a lot of people into work in that country because the kind of basic work that folks would normally do, they don't need to do it. They already got the kind of money. But what we're saying that I joined with other mayors around the country, we became part of something called guaranteed income. And guaranteed income really focuses on the people who need it the most, really focuses on, people that are below a certain poverty line, folks that are raising children, a certain amount of money that people would get initially to help them. And there's always arguments about if you give people money, they won't work, all of these things, which is silly arguments because we gave people in Newark $500 a month, right? And nobody can not work for $500 a month, right? The reality is we split it up. So we gave some people monthly kind of installments, and we gave other people one lump sum of money, and we gave some people two lump sums of money. And interestingly enough, people spent the money differently based on how they received the money, right? So more folks who got the money month to month obviously paid their monthly bills, right? They paid their PSE&G, they paid their rent, they did all these other kind of things with it. People who got money, larger sums of money, were able to use that money to get themselves out of debt, right? To pay for continuing education, and that's what they did, right? To do larger things that were more impactful for their life, pay larger bills, more medical bills and things, as opposed to the monthly sums of money that they got. And there was, the idea of their well-being, their emotional and their physical well-being changed because of the stress that was lifted because of the money that was presented to them, right? And there is a discussion now nationally about should we continue guaranteed income? And guaranteed income looks differently in policy, right? It can be earned income tax credits that people don't actually fill out and get the money for. Everybody doesn't get their money. You get earned income tax credits, or it could be child tax credits, right? So, it could look like something that New Jersey has now that is not permanent but temporary for mothers. So mothers that are having babies you're getting an opportunity to apply for money just like they do in other countries, to apply for money while you're going through the process, right? And so the whole discussion is should we expand those programs, right? Should those programs grow? In fact, the country had a child tax credit for a little while that was ended, because the Senate did not vote for it, right? Even though the data proved that with the child tax credit, right, or the baby bonds, whatever they want to call it, helped reduce child poverty. And so while we know child poverty decreased because of these child tax credits, the United States Senate still opposed it. In fact, it was a Democrat that voted against expanding child tax credits or continuing child tax credits in this country, right? Knowing that we can reduce child poverty by having a child tax credit, right? There's pros and cons to this discussion, this argument, and I think part of this, of us wanting to do this here at the league and having a roundtable is to really socialize the discussion, begin to lift it up so more people can talk about what guaranteed income looks like, what it should be, what it would resemble in terms of public policy, especially in this gubernatorial election that just finished. We have a new governor coming in. What does that look like for communities that need it the most, right? How does a guaranteed income help us? And what would that look like? Or, I mean, there's probably people in here who don't agree that we should have a guaranteed income, or we shouldn't have a universal basic income. I don't agree with universal basic income at this point. I think, in the beginning, we need guaranteed income. We need to begin talking about families and individuals that need money the most to kind of level the playing field, create equity. Because at this point, I feel like if everybody in this room if I gave everybody $500, the people who already have $500 now have $1,000, right? So the reality is we have to level set. And I think guaranteed income helps us level set, helps pull a lot of people out of poverty, right? Helps give people a fighting chance, an opportunity to invest in the economy. And people always say, well, what are you going to get the money, or what's going to happen with the money? The thing about working people, about poor people, is that they spend their money. Not because we're not financially literate either, So people have this idea, oh, you need financial literacy, that's why you're spending your money. No, you're spending your money because you got bills, right? And your bills are all over you, right? You have to pay rent. You pay 30% or 50% of your income on rent. You have to pay for clothes. You have to pay for food. You have to pay for house. You have to pay for all of these things, right? And so, God forbid, you have some extra money to go on vacation, right? Or some extra money to do some other things, which you don't have. And so people say, oh, you need to be financially literate. The reality is you just don't have enough money, enough capital to pay your normal bills that you are encumbering throughout your lifetime. So I would like to use this as an opportunity to at least open up the floor and let people at least ask questions or talk about whether they agree or not around guaranteed income, and what would that look like on a state policy. Because this is something that we are going to advocate for. We're not just doing this to talk about it, right? We want to advocate for it, and we want people in New Jersey to know what we're talking about when we discuss it. So go ahead. If you're loud, you can speak there. If not, you got to grab a mic.
I'll try to project.
Yeah.
But thank you so much, first of all, Mayor Baraka, for this topic. I think it's extremely important. I got here a little late, so I think I heard you at the tail end of what you were saying about automation, driving this. I growing up, I just was talking to a friend of mine earlier today about this, and growing up, I go to Macy's, Bamberger's in Newark, right? And so if you're shopping, you've got a number of different workers who you're interfacing with that's producing that sale, from the salesperson to the stock person. But in days before our time, there was a greeter, there were elevator operators before they started automating.
Right.
Now you order online, maybe somebody is pulling it out, but they're using robots in the storeroom, and there's a delivery person, but we're hearing about drone delivery now, right? So with all this, ease of consumption that they're providing, we need money to consume, right?
Right.
And so I came here mainly to understand how the how of it, like how it's being discussed. But I think the why of it is necessary. It sort of reminds me, it's the society's moving in a direction where it becomes necessary. I guess the analogy is recently in baseball, they started the pitch clock.
Right.
Because over the decades, the games got longer and longer. You didn't need a pitch clock in 1965. You didn't need guaranteed income in 1965. It's worked in baseball, the change. So now it's how do you effectuate that here? So it's a very important discussion. I don't have any necessarily insights. I came to derive
Right.
some, but I do want to.
We had a whole presidential candidate who ran on this idea of universal basic income. What you're saying is right, but I would argue that it was needed then in 1965 too, but in a guaranteed way because there was inequity. So we're talking about it not just in the terms of displacement, because there is worker displacement. There are stores you could go to around the world that have only one person working in them, and there's stores now in the U.S. that you can walk out. They have them in the airport too. You can walk out and it automatically takes the money off your credit card, right? So you don't really need anybody you don't really need anybody in the store, right? So we late to that party, right? The U.S. is late to that party. You could travel around the world and that'll happen. So all of the kind of functions that you need in order to drive the economy, a lot of those jobs are going away because of robotics and AI and technology. And so those jobs will have to be, people will have to be either trained on different opportunities or different jobs. We have to find a way to make sure people contribute to the economy. And I think the fundamental argument that we have to understand is that the economy functions because people spend money. And we don't understand. I mean, we let these people, trick us into believing that the economy functions some other kind of way. Like there's a magic way that it works. The reality is people have to spend money. And if there is no money to spend, right, the economy falls on or caves in on itself, right? And so this whole idea of inflation, which I think really is not a scientific concept, by the way. I think it's a wholly man-made concept that is created to keep people in check. That's the reality, to keep people from continuously making money. The reality is people stop creating supply on purpose, right, in order to regulate prices, right? To make more supply lowers prices, right? To end monopolies lowers prices. It stabilizes prices. As long as you allow monopolies and you allow the supply not to grow, and in order to grow supply, you need people to work. Because supply is created by individuals who create supply. Usually that's how it happens. And so economically, this is how these things function. But ultimately, it's not just about the losing of the job, because the job is going to get lost, right? And we could train in other jobs. There was steam, after steam became something else. We adopt and adapt as human beings to find other ways to train ourselves to engage the economy in order to make money, right? And then take care of ourselves. Ultimately, inequity, in my mind, is the basis of all of this. And that's the way we should be looking at it and thinking about it, based on inequity. The society is fundamentally unequal and uneven because of the kind of systems that we're in. It's fundamentally unequal and fundamentally uneven. Therefore, you're always going to have people who have less than other people, not to no fault of their own. Because work has never, this idea that work gets you money is just not a real thing. And I hope, I'm not offending anybody by saying that, right? Because I know people who've worked their entire life, 3 jobs. So they're obviously not lazy people, right? They work 3 jobs, but still can afford housing and a vacation, or rent and Christmas toys, right? So their job and their work does not equal wealth. And so it's important for us, right, to even it out for a few things. So people can have access to decent health care, so people can have access to decent housing, right? So people can have access to well-being, so they can have access to quality food, all of these things, all of the social determinants of health that the economy provides, right? That we able to spend money to get it. Here's the worst part of it. Our country is a consumer economy. We don't make nothing. Y'all know that, right? So this crazy tariff stuff that Trump is talking about, waiting for people to build factories, it's never going to happen. Americans want to use iPhones. They don't want to make them. Listen, and if you made an iPhone in America, it would cost you $8,000 to buy one. So this is meaning that our economy is driven by our spending. And when there are whole populations of people who have no money, right, who can't spend, then you cripple the economy. And that's, to me, why guaranteed income is incredibly important for so many reasons. Yes, ma'am.
Mayor Baraka, I'm going to ask this question, forgive my ignorance around the subject.
No.
I'm asking from a business owner perspective, how does this impact the workforce and their willingness to participate, or our willingness to find talent and talent who actually wants to be active, guaranteed income, I guess, versus a universal basic income principle? Can you maybe break that down a little bit more?
Sure. So at the beginning, I said, like, we did guaranteed income in Newark. The money you're giving people for guaranteed income is not enough money for them not to work. Right. So we gave people $500 a month, right? So $500 to $600. People got $6,000 or so dollars a year, and what it is a floor. You're promising people a floor that they have access to health care. They're not going to get sick in their house and die from appendicitis, right? That they have access to quality food, right? These are the things, like in other countries, they'll say, oh, you're having if you're pregnant and having a baby, we should give you some money for child care, for child support, like for all of these things, so that you can have a healthy child, so that the social determinants are not crushing you, and that your child can start school ready to learn, right? And that we have a literate, functional person that's becoming a human being that we helped collectively, right, and not left out there in the wilderness and then blame mom and dad for not being able to raise the child in a healthy way in an environment that's wholly unhealthy, right? So other countries understand that, so they give mothers money. They give families money, some for longer ages than others. And so that's really what this is. So when people make the argument that people quit, and I can guarantee you that everybody we gave guaranteed income to in Newark did not quit their jobs. In fact, the problem was that some of them were already on other kinds of assistance. And the difference between guaranteed income and the welfare state is that guaranteed income is cash that's unencumbered, right? And you can spend the money on what you need. There is no list of things. Say, oh, you can buy bread but not milk. You can buy milk but not this kind, right? You can't pay your PSE&G bill with this. You can only buy chicken, right? And so what that does, it creates an economy, an under kind of current in that economy where people need the money for food, but they also got to pay their electric bill. So they wind up trying to find a way to use the food money to pay the electric bill, right? And they get themselves in trouble, right? Y'all know what I'm talking about, right?
No.
Right. So at the end of the day, or they go to the store and they only can buy certain things with that money. That's why it's important to have unencumbered cash that you give to people. And the reality is we prevent that from happening because the argument is we are immature in our ability to handle our own financial affairs, which is really condescending, racist, and classist, right? So at the end of the day, if I give you $500, you're gonna go get drunk. That's what people say, right? Or you're gonna waste the money as opposed to paying your bills. Well, I can assure you that everybody in our guaranteed income program, because we did a real study, we did an analysis, spent their money mostly on rent and food, right? Why? Because that's the things that you need the most. Pay your rent, eat some food, right? Those are the things that people need, groceries. Some people spent it on school uniforms. Go figure, right? They need to buy school uniforms. Some of them spent it on electric bills, PSE&G that's killing us, right? Did you see a new PSE&G bill? Jesus Christ. I can't wait till Mikey put the heart on the thing, right? But they usually pay their electric bills. And I said earlier, some even used it to further their education. They use it for further education, right? Somebody use it to help buy a car, right? So they can get back and forth to work, to school, or wherever, right? Those are folks that were getting lump sums of the money. So yeah, I think we just have to understand what we're talking about. Yes, sir.
So Mayor, there are, like you said, other countries have this and proven very clearly that direct transfer of unencumbered cash is the most efficient way, not just the most beneficial for the individual, but also the most efficient way to transfer any kind of equity-related benefits. So has there been any study done on, like, if you got rid of this massive bureaucracy around the welfare state that you have and just gave out straight checks with unencumbered cash, that would actually, $1 means 1.5 or 2, because you're not boiling the ocean to give someone $1.
Yeah, there have been discussions and studies about it. Obviously, there are now counter studies coming out because these people want to prohibit us from giving people money. There's a study that just came out that talks about how people's well-being were not enhanced by the money they got, but they gave them a smaller amount of money for a shorter period of time, right? So obviously, there has to be there's a number that in my mind is the tipping point, right? There's a tipping point number that we have to reach to say this is the amount of money that we should be giving people based on the expenses that the society lays upon them, that the economy lays upon them. At this point, I do not think, like even in Newark, our program, that it would have been beneficial for us to get rid of everybody's additional programs just to give them money at that time. Because there's some specific stuff. Some of it, yes, I think that we should be talking about how to unify some of those programs, take that dollar amount and give that dollar amount to individuals to put it right in the market. But some of it, I think we should be talking about reducing the cost in the market altogether, right? Making sure the market costs are reduced and that people still have some assistance. Like, so if I'm getting farm subsidy, for example, but I need to be on a guaranteed income, I shouldn't have to relinquish my farm subsidy because I'm getting guaranteed income, right? Or because I'm getting guaranteed income, but because I get a guaranteed income, like I can't get my student loan debt paid back, right? Or because I'm getting guaranteed income, because that's what it's boiling down to now. If I get guaranteed income, now I can't get my earned income tax credit, or I can't get this thing. So we have to really analyze what we're going to bring together and give people cash for, and the programs that we think are beneficial to keep. Because I wouldn't say get rid of all of the programs wholesale, simply because people got guaranteed income. I think there are very conservative groups of people who would like to do that as well, who would like to just give people a check and take everything else away. In fact, Milton Friedman was one of the first people to talk about universal basic income in the first place. All of those folks out there. So we just have to be careful in that. I got the question over here, yes. This brother, and then you, Mayor.
Yeah, Mayor, I guess it's twofold question. One for you, the word participant, to be able to receive that money. Is there a minimum and max that he or she would have to make to participate in it?
Yes.
And living in a small town that's a lot smaller than your town, how could they work it to afford it to participate in this?
Well, yes. For the first part of the question is yes. Guaranteed income is directed at people who need it the most. So yes, you have to be below a certain poverty line, or you have to meet the criteria. In some cities across the country, they focused on single mothers in the housing projects. The reason mayors did this around the country is because we're trying to build a groundswell of data and analysis of why it's important for us to have something like a guaranteed income. So in many different cities, we had a different focus group, right? And so you do have to meet certain criteria. Many of us got money from philanthropic organizations, from the private sector, helped us out, and ARPA dollars, right? Used some of the ARPA dollars from the federal government to put together a whole package. And it's been successful. So now you got larger nonprofit and philanthropic organizations that are willing to give money to guaranteed income causes across the country. So the concept is growing. We needed to grow in New Jersey. We needed to grow in the country. We needed to grow in New Jersey. And it could look like different things. And us talking about what that looks like is one of the first steps here. What does that look like? Does it look like earned income tax credits? Is it a child tax credit? What does it look like for us?
Yes. Mayor, first I just want to thank you for your leadership in piloting this program in Newark. I know Newark and I think Patterson are among the only municipalities in New Jersey. In Hoboken, we're a part of Mayors for Guaranteed Income. And I'm thinking about piloting. We're looking at Newark and working with your administration on pilot in Hoboken. You just answered two of the questions I had based on the last gentleman's question. First is what group do you target? Is it pregnant mothers? Is it kids who are going to college? And what your experience was there. And then the second thing that people are concerned about, which I have for you, a question I have for you is, some folks have expressed concern that if they take this monthly check, that might impact some of their other benefits. For example, SNAP benefits and other benefits might be adversely impacted. Have you experienced that in Newark, and if so, have you been able to navigate around that?
Yeah, and that's it brings both of these questions together, yours and this gentleman. And the first part is, I would focus. It's good to focus on something different, because the more the diversity of the categories that we focus on, it proves our point greater. Like, so people that are focused, there's one city that focused on a certain housing project, right? Just the families that lived in that housing project, right? All of those things are helpful for us. The other part of it, which is the real issue, is what was talked about earlier. The federal government will stop benefits in one area because you're getting this. Because to them, they'll record this as income for you. And so if they record this as income for you, then you lose other benefits, right? So you might need EBT, right? And you're getting EBT, and if you get this, they'll take EBT away. So there has to be a way, and what we did, you try to record this almost as gifts, right? And not as recurring kind of income, right? Or you have to have a real conversation with the federal government and these agencies about the program itself. But ultimately, it's ways to record the monies that doesn't look like like this is not in perpetuity. And it's true, you're not going to get this forever, right? So at the end of the day, or for extended periods of time. And so it's important for you to point that out and figure that out, how you're going to record what this money looks like. And you got to make people aware of it when you talking to them about this in the beginning, about being a part of the program, that there is a real harm of them, or chance of them trying to take your benefits away if you participate in this program, right? Which is why we have to have the larger discussion, which is giving people unfettered and unencumbered cash versus the welfare state. What do we keep? What do we throw away? What do we combine? And I tend to believe you need a combination of both of those things. Right? You just don't need all of that. And all of this, you need a combination of it. And we just need to figure out what that is.
Thank you.
How you doing, sir? Mine was more of a comment than a question.
Yeah.
I'm familiar with the guaranteed income programs that were in Stockton, I'm in Jackson, Mississippi, and Minneapolis. I just wanted to note that I think that a lot of the naysayers don't understand that it's bigger than giving people money. It's more like you said, it's a floor. It's giving people hope. A lot of people are suffocated by whether it's bills or mental health issues, etc. I think that leads to some of the cities I named, some of the problems that they have that Newark, is improving upon, which are crime or just a lack of community morale and things like that. And I think that programs like this allow people to escape some of that suffocation as much as they can. And it gives them the opportunity. I know with Stockton specifically, their program led to more full-time employment, and most naysayers would think that because you're giving people free money, it encourages them to do nothing or not improve upon their circumstances, when in actuality, programs like this give people the hope to get up and try something, or try to improve their lifestyle. So I think that this program is really important just in general for our city. As someone that's on the inside looking out, I've been a Newark citizen all my life. I think that a lot of people, these opportunities would benefit them in being, how we say, Newark and proud of it, and just building the community togetherness as a whole. So I do applaud that. I was happy to be here and learn more about it because I didn't know anything about this program prior to this.
Right. That was on the money. Stockton was the first city, by the way. Yeah. And the irony of that, he was the youngest mayor at the time in the country to come up with this concept. Nobody else probably had the courage to do it. He did it. And Newark was the second, right? Because when he did it, I was like, let's go. So here you go.
As part of this pilot, were you able to measure economic growth in Newark as a direct result of these cash infusions?
I don't know if we went that far. We had a outside agency do the analysis. I don't know, and they actually have a report printed. I don't know if we went that far to see the economic impact that it had on the city, but that would be interesting, and I'm gonna now go inquire about that. What that is. We're talking about 400 families who participated in this, and the amount of money that they got. One of them even began a small business. He cleaned sneakers and did all kind of stuff, and he used that money to expand his business. So that obviously is a clear economic impact on the economy. But I'm definitely going to double down and check out what that did for us. Anybody else? Yes.
I'm wondering if there's any opportunity, based on what you were saying, as far as, the income eligibility, like creating a problem with the income and lack of services available to somebody. I'm wondering if there's a way to structure it differently where maybe instead of it just being income, it's almost like a forgivable loan or part of, you're being paid to participate in a study for the reporting purposes. That way, if it was a forgivable loan, somebody's improving their credit score in addition to getting the income. Because as we work with small business owners. So the thing that we see, the biggest barrier for some of the success there is that credit score. That credit score will not get you the loan that you need, even with an organization like ours that does take a lower credit score. So I'm just wondering if there's more opportunity to structure it a different way so that you're kind of having another more benefits from it.
No, absolutely. But that's exactly what we're doing. Exactly what you have to do to protect people's benefits, right? It forces you to think about that because people will lose their benefits, as was stated, and you don't want them to lose their benefits because the amount of money that you're giving them is not going to cover all of the stuff. The costs are so much, right, that it's important. I need both of those things, and so you don't want to, cripple them by helping them at the same time. Yes.
Yeah, one thing that I've been thinking about is the ABLE account. So there is an account called ABLE, I think it's Achieving a Better Life, where as a resident you can save up to $100,000 in there, and it does not impact your benefits. It's for folks with disability, but looking at something like that, right, then it does not, once you're able to save in that account and it doesn't impact your benefits, that may be a route. It's called ABLE, and it's for folks with disability. I'm not sure that they're using it in New Jersey, but I know throughout the nation they are.
That's good. I've never heard of that. That's good. I'm gonna look into that. Now you gave me some homework. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And the reality is we're trying to, so we don't want to leave this on cities because cities just don't have the resources to sustain this. We just don't. We're going to have to continue to beg and borrow from everybody to make this a reality. There are opportunities on the state side and definitely in the federal government to make this a reality. We already give people earned income tax credits. We already give tax credits to developers and tax credits to all these folks, earned income tax credits. We already give out child tax credits, right? These are concepts that are not foreign and not radical. Baby bonds is not a radical and foreign concept, right? Putting money in accounts of children and letting that money accrue is something that's not foreign, right? Obviously, these are things that people talk about, think about, and have tested, right? And so really on the state side and the federal side, how do we expand? Maybe we're talking about expanding those programs to meet more people, right, where they are, right, and putting more money in those programs at the same time. What does a child tax credit, what should it be in New Jersey? What does it look like, right, in New Jersey to have a child tax credit for every, family that needs it, right, or expand it for every family that needs it, right, or having a child tax credit that might be a little bit more available for families who are below a certain poverty level, right? or in a certain demographic or geographic, and that's important. And so it looks like a lot of those things, and I just want us to stretch our mind in such a way, because what happens is we in the box and we think that, oh, how is this going to happen? We can't give people this cash. Well, we already doing it, right? We already doing it. We just have to figure out how to do it more efficiently, right? And in a way that we can give it to more people so it have a greater impact than it's having now. Right now, they came up with a way to give through State New Jersey and all these other things to give people money, to give seniors money. They were going to give seniors who were making $500,000 or more money to not leave New Jersey, right? There is a greater way to spend that money than to give to people who are making $500,000 or more, right? That there are a lot of people, if you give them that cash money, they put it right back into the economy right away, right? Those are the people who need the cash, not arguing with people so they don't go to their vacation home in Florida, because there's nothing that's going to stop them. I don't care how much money you give them. I don't think if you got a home in Florida, you're going to go there. Like, it doesn't make sense. I mean, me here in the winter, 20 degrees, Florida, doesn't make sense. Like, I'm retiring, I'm going to my retirement home. I mean, it doesn't make sense for us to come up with policies that have no real economic and social impact on people's lives. If we want to spend money, there's ways to spend money that is a real investment, right? It's greater, or your investment goes longer if you give it to families that are going to spend the money in New Jersey, right? That are going to pay for things here and grow the economy here, as opposed to putting it in other people's pockets, who you don't know where the money, who are going to put it in a savings account or IRA or something else, as opposed to spending it right away, right? And that's my argument for why we need to expand these programs. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
So now, where's the funding been coming from?
Well, we have used the combination of philanthropic dollars. At the time, we used ARP dollars that came from the federal government. You know, those things are gone right now. So we use those dollars and a little bit of our entitlement money that we get as well. So we use those dollars, and we partner with all of the community-based organizations that are already doing this work to figure out the pathway forward. So it was really a collective process of how we got here. I mean, ultimately, like smaller cities, like the brother talked about, won't have the capacity to do this kind of work, because getting the money you barely get the taxes, never mind the money, right? So the reality is this is going to have to, in order for it to be sustainable, it's going to have to come from the state, right, or the federal government, or both.
Mayor Baraka, is there a risk with everything that's happening in the federal government now that folks are facing based on SNAP? I don't know if they've returned or not. If this program is rolled out through the federal government or through the state, does then are dollars at risk for this population that receive this income when things go around?
The dollars are at risk now. They're thinking about making everybody reapply for SNAP. And part of the and all of these kind of stringent requirements that I just talked about, the difference between those programs and us giving unencumbered, unfettered cash to people, the requirement now, because of the concept of what people were talking about, they think people are getting money and they're not working. So they're saying, oh, in order for you to get these SNAP benefits, you have to work. Now, this doesn't make any sense, right? Now you're going to work for SNAP benefits, right? Which is bizarre. And what it means is that what they don't understand is that there are people that already have jobs that get SNAP. So the people who are administering the program don't even know what the program is, right? There are people who have jobs that get SNAP. And the question becomes, why do you have a job and still have to get SNAP? Because the job don't pay, right? It doesn't equal the amount of bills that are sitting on your back, right? The housing costs that are going up, the healthcare costs that are going up, the groceries because of crazy tariffs and all this other stuff that are going to continue to go up, the gas prices that go up, the New Jersey Transit price that going up. You can't pay all of that. And the problem is You can't pay all that with your SNAP benefits. You can't go to the bus with a SNAP card. Like, it's not going to happen. You can't go pay your tuition with your EBT card. It's not. If your lights go off, if you're driving the car and the tire get flat, you can't get your tire fixed with the EBT card, right? Like, and so these are people who don't understand the constraints on working people's lives or don't care about those constraints on our lives, right? And so it's important for us to come up with policy, people who understand these issues, to come up with policy that addresses these specific issues that we have. And so that's why unfettered cash is important. People say, oh, you want to give people money so they can do what they want with it. Oh, we want them to be able to be flexible with the money that they have. And that's important. Flexibility is important. So they're able to do various things. I see a hand over here. Somebody had a hand up. Nope, they didn't. I thought to put your hand down now.
You mentioned private sector partnerships. Like, how are those taking, how are you creating those partnerships? Are they coming to you? Are you going to them? Like, how do those come to fruition?
At first, we went to them. If you're a part of Mayors with Guaranteed Income, there are partners and organizations that work with Mayors with Guaranteed Income and help you raise dollars through private sector money. Right now, the good thing is because some of this stuff has been successful, there are foundations that are looking to pay or to support programs like this, like the one New Jersey has now for pregnant women. That is a result of national guaranteed income programs working. So now they say, oh, we want to do this, we want to fund that, we want to fund this. And it's really a push to get us to accept what the rest of the world has already accepted. The wealthiest country in the world is the longest to realize that you have to take care of the people who need it the most in order to sustain wealth in your country. We're coming to that late, or we don't have the will to make that happen because those that are in power also have the money and they're trying to keep their money and not give it to you, right? Even though their money is created by the collective efforts of you, right? Right.
I'm curious if there's a way to get a stakeholder in that money class to support this by them getting some kind of money.
I agree with that. Yeah, there are some as a part of these foundations, like who are funding this, like Fort Dodge Foundation, Ford Foundation. These folks that are interested in that, they get money obviously from big these people that got all this money who are interested in funding these things. So really, that's why the Mayors for Guaranteed Income is important, because the more successful this is around the country, then people will begin to see this is not just like a harebrained scheme, some far left radical plot to overthrow billionaires, right? So that it is really an opportunity to improve the economy, to make people's lives better, to create equity and opportunity. Yeah, and take some money back from some billionaires. But at the end of the day, ultimately it's a level set, and this is what we need. Clearly, in an economy that is raging out of control, right? It is becoming less accessible, too expensive. Your opportunity to get access to the so-called American dream is becoming more and more meager and slim, right? People have given that up completely. I was in the other panel. One of the union organizers said they took out of their vision statement access to the American dream because people thought it might be too difficult for them to attain, right? And so those concepts of owning a home, living in a community, in a suburban community, all these things, that's not even a reality in people's minds and concepts. They just give that up altogether, right? Because the journey there and the road there is just too expensive. There's too many barriers in the way to get there. And the economy is becoming too cumbersome and too difficult to maintain, which means that when it becomes too difficult to maintain, it'll collapse on itself, right? Which will ultimately happen if people are not in the economy. You can't isolate people from the economy and expect it to work, right? If you had a if you was making a lemonade stand out in front of your house, you're gonna serve every car that pulls up, right? You're not gonna say, I only want the blue cars, the red cars, this kind of car, that kind of car. Every car that pull up, you want to sell them the lemonade. That's how the economy works. But if you have an economy that's exclusive and not inclusive, then you're really shooting yourself in the foot because your economy cannot stabilize itself based on a very few amount of people who are becoming more and more scarce, right? Our economy is more diverse. Is more diverse linguistically, is more diverse culturally, is more diverse socially. It's just more diverse. The American economy is diverse. If the economy does not begin to focus on diverse groups of people, it's going to fail. It's going to fail. That's not like a prophetic leftist diatribe, right? That's a fact, right? So at the end of the day, and if people don't have money, as was stated, they can't participate in the economy. They can't. And in an economy that's like 70%, 80% consumer-based driven, like that's a recipe for failure right there altogether, right? And I don't care what Donald Trump told you. I don't know how many of you guys voted for Donald Trump in here. The tariffs ain't gonna help us. Or the $2,000 he's saying he's gonna give you from the tariffs that you're gonna have to spend it all on the stuff that costs so much money because of the tariffs in the first place. It's just a backward, silly notion because there are no factories in this country at that level to compete with factories around the world. It just does not happen. Almost everything we get is imported. Import and export is our money in the U.S., period. Take it from somebody who is in the city with the second largest seaport in the nation, right? The exports and imports is what's driving our economy, clearly. Yes, sir.
So, one, I want to appreciate the conversation of framing around class. I feel like more people should be talking about the class part of the equation to drive these ideas forward. But in practical stuff, well, what is the next step? How do we get there? I mean, if we're not federally, right? It doesn't seem like it's on the horizon federally.
Right.
Not anytime soon. But how do we do it here in New Jersey? Who's doing the work? How do you get involved? How do we get to where we need to be?
So, as the mayor pointed out, Newark and Patterson have done it. Hoboken is trying to do it, trying to get your municipality to begin figuring out what a local guaranteed income looks like. Us talking about it at the league to get the folks in the league, the leadership of the league, which is usually mostly made up of smaller towns, right? Smaller towns, smaller suburban and rural towns are part of the leadership of the league. I'm a part of the leadership of the league. I'm like probably a unicorn in that. But at the end of the day, to get people to start talking about what this looks like, because guaranteed income is not just for folks in the cities, right? It's for folks in rural New Jersey, right? It's for mothers in suburban New Jersey, right? Because they're mothers in suburban New Jersey who are one paycheck away from losing their home. I mean, that's a fact. Me traveling up and down the state, I've talked to these people. There are folks who healthcare bills are so high. They have children that are sick, right? I met a gentleman whose child was born with 3 chambers in his heart, who has a $10,000 deductible, right? And a copay, and that ain't even cost his insurance. So he's in trouble, right? And so all over the state, there are people in trouble. And this discussion locally where people live at about what guaranteed income looks like, how to stabilize families, is a discussion that we can have all over the state of New Jersey. Then we need to begin to look at the programs that we have on the state side that we already fund, because we're funding a lot of programs that give people money back, tax relief programs, that you get a check for $600 or $1,000 or $2,000. And people know that's not a lot of money, but and the irony of this is this: like, if I can give a homeowner $1,500 as a tax rebate check, we're not fearful that if I give that person $1,500 that they're not going to go to work. We're not fearful that I get this person $2,000, they're just going to quit their corporate job and sit in their living room and collect $2,000. We're not fearful of that, but we're fearful that working people with $600 is going to do the same thing. So it clearly doesn't make sense. So all of these programs that exist, you have to start figuring out how to repurpose these programs and give it to the people who need it the most, right? So yeah, we have an earned income tax credit. What does an earned income tax credit look like? Expand it. Like, how do we expand it to more people? We have a version of a child tax credit. How to expand the child tax credit and put it in the hands of people who need it the most? How do we target groups of people who are in more deleterious positions than everybody else and give them opportunity to have unfettered cash? How do we take the rules off of it? The money that we give out, how do we get rid of the bureaucracy and the rules from that money and say, look, we're giving you $500, do with it what you will. The state has the authority to do these things, and we already give money out. What we have to figure out is who gets the money, right? How much we're giving them, and what programs can we combine to make sure we can sustain this over a period of time. And part of this can't happen unless we agree to do one thing: tax the billionaires. If you don't agree to do that, then we might as well just leave and not have this discussion. Because ultimately, we're going to have to get there. We can probably do this with a little bit now, but ultimately, you have to get there because you can't fund everything, right, and give all these people a break. And politicians like to say, elected officials like to say, we're not going to raise your taxes. Well, that's just like a scam, right? At the end of the day, we don't get money from nowhere else but your taxes. That's how we make money. Like this, we get it from your taxes. Now, we have to charge you more if the prices keep going up and if we give breaks to multimillionaires. If they get a tax break, you can't. Doesn't that make mathematical sense? If the bill is $200, right, and the person that got the most money you let leave the restaurant, you got to pay the bill. That's just how it works. You got to find $200 from somewhere, or you got to chase him out to the parking lot. The reality is he's got to pay too, right? So you got to get them to pay their fair share of it in order for us to eat. And so that ultimately has to be, so I don't want us to leave this discussion thinking this is a magic trick, because it's not a magic trick. This is not, pixie dust that we sprinkle and everybody's lives change because I said abracadabra. The reality is somebody's got to pay for it. And yeah, how are we going to pay for it? There are a lot of people that are getting tax breaks in this state that should be paying just a little bit more so we can take care of folks who need it the most, right? So they can contribute back to our economy. And the irony of that is when they contribute back to the economy, they're going to give the money back to these people anyway. Yes.
Just thinking about what you said, Mayor Baraka, about, when these dollars come into this, coming at it from a perspective of, is there a way to, based on the study that the city of Newark did, in seeing these categories and where the dollars are spent, is there a way to maybe, for lack of a better term, rebrand instead of guaranteed income? Because people, they seem to have an adverse reaction to that.
Yeah.
So is there a way to...
They think we're giving it to you. They thought they was giving it.
Right, so is there a way to rebrand it so that maybe it's, instead of guaranteed income, maybe it falls under a category such as grants, such as a certain grant that these towns and municipalities can set up, in where, again, I know it's unencumbered dollars, but maybe based on that study, it's saying, hey, we find it's spent mostly food, utilities, bills. Maybe we just kind of have this general category, folks can spend it, and then we determine feedback fund, if you will, as a grant, so that it doesn't necessarily fall into the category of, one, risking such as SNAP benefits and things like that, but also, two, in that there's not such an adverse reaction to it, and maybe there is more buying.
Well, I mean, there's a few landmines in there. One, I don't want it to be prohibitive, right? So when you start defining what you can spend the money on, then it becomes, you're going down a slippery slope.
In a broader, not necessarily in a restrictive way, I'm going to use the...
Yeah, but I know some lawyers in here who could tell you not to do that because somebody could figure out how to stop you from doing it.
There's a company, like there's a tech company that does it now, right? And where they have these categories that are very flexible, in where it's just a category, but under that category it's very broad and it's not so restrictive as to what they could. So this is just, I'm just throwing it out.
Now I get it. I just think it's dangerous because it'll take us back to where we are, and we're trying to get away from that place right now. I agree that it doesn't have to be called guaranteed income, because in the state side, I think it's necessary for us to call it locally, to say what it is and talk about it, socially for us to think about it, right? Because it's important for us to build support around it and change people's viewpoint and mindset and acculturate them to the way we're thinking. But statewide and nationally, that's why I said it could be earned income tax credits. It could be child tax credits. It could be whatever it is. But we need to figure out where we're gonna put the pot of money and how we're gonna spend it. Right? And if we give money to every family that has a child from conceiving the child to 4 years old or 5 years old or to first grade, right? That everybody gets that money and you're able to spend it in any way that you can, that's something that, I think I would support. I mean, ultimately, there are things that we can do on the state and the federal side and put that money in a category that we can use it in, because we're already spending those dollars now. We're already spending those dollars. How do we spend that money in a way that's more impactful? Like if you elect people to office and they come up with an idea that we should give money to people who make $500,000 first, then you got the wrong person there, right? So, I mean, in your mind, if that's the first thing you're thinking of, you're thinking about your own class. You're thinking about your own folks. And the problem with that, and no disrespect, is that people don't see. If you don't see other people, you can't help people you can't see, right? And if you don't see them, then you can't solve their problems because you don't know their problems exist. So you're solving problems of the people around you, right? Which may be problematic for them, but it's not urgent in a sense that if they don't get this money, their child won't get fed, right? Or it's going to have a catastrophic impact on their lives. And I think those are the people we should be taking care of first. And so our policies should be designed to take care of those people, to give them a floor. And when you give people a floor, I think what the brother said is 100,000% correct. You give people hope to get out here and go and swing, right? And that's the reality. The best hope you get in a fight when you get punched and you don't get knocked out, right? That's the hope you got. Oh, I could beat this, right? We start swinging more. I might win, But the reality is you give people the floor. So when they face difficulty, because it's coming, when they face difficulty, it doesn't crush them. And when they're not crushed by it, it gives them the hope to keep trying, to get out of the bed the next day, to do something else, to go find a better job. Because with this little bit of money, I got this. If I just had a little bit more money, I can do that. I'm gonna go get a better job, right? Go ahead, sir.
Mayor, I just asked a question. How would you include marginal communities that already have a low income tax rate, and basically they're depending basically on property taxpayers, right? Just to exist, and they don't have like a business or something, or a business enterprise like within the compound of that particular town. How would those persons get?
You got to explain that to me again. You're saying,
say a person, I can give a specific, a place like Pleasantville, New Jersey.
Yes, sir.
We have a very small city.
I've been there.
Right.
Yeah.
And there isn't any other income beyond right and saying what we pay for taxpayers. There's no industry within our city.
Right.
And we are already on the poverty line. So how would that city be included?
No, I think those are the cities that we should be dealing with first, right? When we start talking about what a guaranteed income looks like, people in those situations should be some of our primary targets, like folks to be able to get unfettered unencumbered cash so they could begin to figure out ways to, this doesn't inhibit the state and from investing money in those municipalities like they should, right? And encouraging growth and development and financial institutions to be there. But ultimately, we have to make sure that people aren't, shattered by the fact that they don't have access to opportunity, which goes back to what was said earlier, which is the same thing as being displaced in terms of your jobs, right? But you ain't had no job in the first place, so you get displaced. You got displaced by economy that didn't include you, right? And so that's why equity is important, and guaranteed income is a way to at least give people a little hope in those communities so they're not completely burned down. Definitely.
So I wondered, there was a young lady made a comment earlier about branding. I guess part of that, what I'm hearing in that is the concept of backlash, right?
Right.
So as this thing hits the state level, I'm looking at, I think the idea should be to also focus in on some of these poor areas like Salem, Cumberland,
100%.
Cape May.
Yes, sir.
And by the way, I would probably call it, if you want to rebrand it, maybe something like the citizens reimbursement probably would be something to call it. But like, or something like that. But like, that way, those type of folks who tend to vote in a way that may not be consistent with their interests these days might be able to blunt some. I'm just, just.
I got you, brother. We on the same page.
Focus on those type of communities might be helpful in the short term to get us through the hump so that we can develop and stand how we.
Well, the irony is that most people that are on SNAP in America are in red states. Right? People argue why the New Jersey pays more taxes or gives the federal government more money than many other states in the United States is because we're wealthier than those states. And our money is used to subsidize other states that are basically red states in the deep South and parts of the Midwest. That's just a fact. So the people that are being affected by not having SNAP and EBT, the majority of those people don't live in Newark. They might live in West Virginia or parts of Pennsylvania. But the reality is, it's important. That's why it's important for us to have the conversation, right, in a very raw and unfettered way, like across class lines, across whatever, to talk about it, because I think it would be very difficult to argue against given people's economic conditions, right, and we have to talk about it in a way that's very plain for people to understand that when we say a guaranteed income or when we say expanded earned income tax credits or whatever it is, that we're talking about you, not somebody else.
Right.
We're talking about you.
To Obamacare, but they support the
Right.
ACA.
Right. And that's why we even need to entertain the discussion about branding and so forth and so on, because people, like you said, they don't have Obamacare, they have ACA, even though they're the same thing, but they rather have ACA than Obamacare. As long as you can take Obama out of it, we good.
So don't put your name.
Yeah, I'm gonna be far away from it. Trust and believe.
Bucks.
No. I love it. But you're right, and I just think we have to have more discussion about it. That's why this is important, though. Honestly, I think we don't have discussions across culture, across neighborhood, across demographic. We just don't have these discussions. We have to have, and that's why it's important to have it at the league, right? Because we have all these technical discussions at the league, how to pay your bills, how to do this, how to do that, not how to get the money to pay your bills, but how to pay the bills, how to do this, all these technical discussions, but not how to fundamentally support our economy, how to bring communities together. And what you said, most people don't know. Salem, Cumberland County, all of those counties in the southern part of New Jersey are some of the poorest counties in the entire state of New Jersey. Right? When people think of poverty, they think of urban cities. They think like Patterson and Newark and Irvington. They don't think of the southern part of New Jersey, right, where the industry is gone, where the transportation doesn't exist, right? There's no way to get people back and forth to jobs, right? And we take for granted the bus stop, right? When you got two buses running all day, right? And so it's important for us to talk about it in that collective way so people can understand how imperative this is. It's
Man, how do you
a
bring
little
this
bit more.
pilot to?
Go ahead.
How do you bring this pilot to that area like Pleasantville, New Jersey? Do you go
Well-
to the mayor or is it up to the residents? How does it work?
Well, I think you should have a conversation. I know your mayor there. She's, I know a couple of the mayors down there in southern part of New Jersey. But I think that they'd be open to this, honestly. That we begin to have conversations with folks locally about what this looks like, and be a part of Mayors with Guaranteed Income. Mayors with Guaranteed Income is a national organization, and there's
So-
technical people that'll help support her.
I can go back and tell my mayor that Mayor Barack said he's willing to come. Just call him next time.
For sure.
I got you. Okay.
I'm willing to come, have a conversation, hook them up with the Mayors for Guaranteed Income across the country,
Right on.
and get them some technical support and figure out how to do it. Even if it's just figuring out how to socialize it down south, you know, because the political bosses in the south are a little different than the political bosses in the north, right? They kind of socialize it to folks so we can begin to build a statewide movement around what guaranteed income looks like, because that's ultimately what's going to get it to be done. There has to be a statewide movement that pushes for this in such a way that is difficult for people to ignore. Right now, it's just you know, a silent roar. Right. We need to make it louder. Right, we got to make it louder. Yep. Yes, ma'am.
For all the people who are here, Mayor, there's so many who are not. How do we bring the communities together to even conceive of this idea being beneficial to all of us, no matter what your status is?
Right. Well, I think, like I said, that locally people have to drum it up in their own communities with their elected officials. But also on the state side, a lot of times we don't deal with our legislators. We got to deal with our legislators and the state officials there to begin to get them, because that's where they are, right, in their committees to talk about this, to sponsor a bill, right, to talk about what this looks like and begin to move in this direction. And honestly, I'll take one more question after this. I think that the era that we're in, in the middle of crisis is always opportunity, right? I just don't think God gives you problems without giving you a solution. The point is, like, in the middle of all of this is our opportunity to be as creative as possible, right? Because while the thing is falling apart, you get so desperate, you begin to think of more innovative and creative ways to get yourself out of the situation that you're in. And when they say, oh, we're not going to fund Medicaid anymore, what we do is we get scared and run and everybody hold on to things. Really, we should be putting more stuff out. We should begin thinking about how to fund our own healthcare opportunity in New Jersey. What would it look like if the federal government didn't fund Medicaid for us? Well, then we have to do it ourselves. Why don't we think about that, right? As opposed to, you know, just thinking about what's going to happen if the federal government don't give us this. That changes our thinking from one of victimization and desperation to one of hope and self-determination, right? We're going to pay for it ourselves. We're going to take care of it ourselves. We're going to do it ourselves. Now, many states can't do that, but New Jersey can. Because New Jersey has the wealth to do this. We can do that ourselves, right? We can fund a child tax credit in New Jersey. We can do it in New Jersey. If we can afford to give billions of dollars back to corporations in New Jersey, we can take a percentage of that to fund child tax credits. A percentage of that. If we can afford to every year our healthcare budgets go up to 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 million dollars, billions of dollars in the state side, if we can afford to give these hospitals and insurance companies all this money, then we can at some point say, we're not going to give you all of this money anymore. We're just going to take some of it and begin to use it to fund a guaranteed education, a guaranteed income program in New Jersey, right? Or we say, oh, we're not going to fund all these youth prisons all over the state of New Jersey because nobody's in them, right? So they're empty, and we're still paying for the same infrastructure with a decreasing amount of kids. If we take that money and say, now we're going to fund a guaranteed income program, we can do that. I mean, it's there. We don't have the money, it's not magic. Like people say, how are you going to fund this? The money is there. How we're using it is the problem. How we're using it. We got a time for one more question or comment, then we have to wrap it up. Yes, sir.
If the city was going to implement the GI program for the first time, what are some skill sets and team structures that are key to make that happen well?
Well, you need to be able to, I don't know if you have any nonprofit organizations or social service agencies in your municipality or educational institutions. We brought everybody together. It's not like the city, we're not the smartest people in the room, you know what I mean? So at the end of the day, we brought in people like UVSO, La Casa de Don Pedro, Rutgers University, all of the foundations and community-based organizations to help us structure, right, what this would look like for us, like who we focusing on, right? Help us find and identify a group that would do the analysis and the study for us, right? How the money was going to be distributed, all this stuff we talked to people collectively about. And if you're a part of the Mayors for Guaranteed Income, it'll give you some support to help you do all this so you're not doing it on your own. So there isn't a national organization that you can be a part of that will help you and partner you with other individuals to help you get technical support, how to even do fundraising, all the kind of things that you need, and look at other people's journey, because you have the benefit now of learning from other people who've tried this before, right? And we gave it to 3 different groups of people to feed the data nationally. That's why we gave some people money a month. We gave people just 1 check a year, and some people 2 checks. We did this on purpose to further the analysis of what it would look like. What is the biggest bang for our buck if we gave people a monthly check in New Jersey? If everybody got a $500 check in New Jersey, is it better to give them that than a $5,000 check every 6 months, right? Or just a $10,000 check at the top of the year, right? What would that look like? What was more impactful for us and for our economy? That's why what was brought up is incredibly important for us to look at as well. So you have people that help you with that. Like, I didn't come up with this in my basement, you know what I mean? So at the end of the day, some very smart people who got into a room. And so the first skill set you need is collaboration. That's a skill set that's not taught, right? And I'm not talking about cooperation, I'm talking about collaboration, to be able to collaborate with your partners. Now, here's the other question. What if you don't have any partners? Right? What if there's no partners? You have no social service agencies, there's no educational institutions, where there's some somewhere in the state, and there's some people in the state who are doing this work, would be willing to come and be a part of your journey wherever you are, right? They would love to be a part of it, I'm sure of it. And the guaranteed mayors for guaranteed income would also be willing to pull you in and give you the support as well. So I don't want you to lose hope. I said, oh, Newark, y'all got UVSO, La Casa, y'all all these organizations. We don't have those organizations. But there are partners across the state of New Jersey that would be willing to come down and heavy lift for you in your municipality. Yeah. So I want to thank everybody for coming out and being a part of this discussion. I appreciate you guys.